Doctor Who has been around a long time, and by its very nature has featured a lot of characters. Sadly, between character deaths or actors walking away from the series, many of them make a big impact before disappearing forever. But not always. In some cases, the door is left ajar for a comeback that would be, frankly, awesome if it ever actually happens. With that in mind, I'm Will for WhoCulture, and here are 10 Doctor Who characters that should return. 10. Susan Foreman. I know this is an obvious choice, given her importance to the Doctor's character. Susan is the Doctor's granddaughter, and was his original companion all the way back at the very beginning. She hasn't been a recurring companion since the Dalek invasion of Earth, where the Doctor decided to leave her behind to find a new life for herself. And her last on-screen appearance was during The Five Doctors. That was a long time ago. Apart from all the juicy goodness that could be unearthed with the advances in Doctor Who canon since we last saw her, the Time War, the Timeless Child, etc., she is the Doctor's granddaughter. That's reason enough to have her hop back in, for a catch-up on the family, if for nothing else. 9. Ohila. Ohila's first appearance back in 2013 saw her present for the 8th Doctor's regeneration. Ohila was the one who finally pushed the Time Lord over the edge, forcing him to finally step properly into the Time War despite his best efforts to stay out of it. She made a couple of returns in Series 9 and was present for one of the Doctor's lowest moments. The events of Hell Bent caused the Time Lord to spiral out of control, becoming the infamous hybrid, all for his desperate attempts to save Clara from death. There also seemed to be a history between them beyond what we'd seen, and it would be nice to see that explored further. 8. The General. This might seem a strange choice, but the General is another character who became important within the Doctor's life during the Moffat era. His first appearance in The Day of the Doctor placed him at the heart of crucial events, leading to the Doctor announcing his new plans to save Gallifrey, ultimately rewriting his own history. Naturally, he came back during the events of Hell Bent, and once again became an integral element in the Doctor's narrative, with his story ultimately ending in his own regeneration, and that was pretty much that. So it does make one wonder what happened to the General. Did they perish with the rest of the Time Lords on Gallifrey during the Master's onslaught, or not? The door is technically open, and the General could have survived and escaped off-world to rebuild Time Lord society in some shape or form. Also, the General recently reappeared in Big Finish, so clearly the character hasn't been totally forgotten, and this means there's every chance they could return on screen one day. 7. Luke Smith. Luke Smith made his debut back in 2007 during the premiere episode of the newly established spin-off series The Sarah Jane Adventures, where he became Sarah Jane's adoptive son after being rescued from his creators, the Bane. He would eventually make his way onto Doctor Who during the Series 4 finale, The Stolen Earth/Journey's End, where each of Russell T Davies' Whoniverse properties crossed over, before making one more small cameo during the End of Time. Sadly, after the tragic death of Elizabeth Sladen, the spin-off show was put to rest, and Luke Smith has remained absent ever since. So, all things considered, now seems like a good time to bring Luke back in order to pay homage to Sarah Jane's legacy, and allow further closure for the iconic character through her son's appearance, and perhaps him following in her footsteps and becoming a Doctor's companion. 6. K9. K9 is such a beloved character. I mean, he's a robot dog. What's not to love? He had a failed spin-off attempt before having minimal screen time in his reappearances in both The Five Doctors and School Reunion. Even when the Sarah Jane Adventures came along, he wasn't made a recurring character until Series 3, but was disappointingly sent away with Luke Smith when he went off to college at the start of Series 4. K9 has already had 4 models, so it's an easy assumption that K9 Mark V could easily be introduced down the line. The Doctor could just encounter this model somewhere in the universe, or even build it themselves. I mean, look, it'd just be really chill to have a robot dog kicking around the TARDIS with the Doctor again, even if it is just for one season. 5. Kate Stewart. I'm just gonna say it. Kate Stewart was wasted by Moffat. Her arrival in The Power of Three showed such promise for the future of the show. Not only was it a reminder of the third Doctor's tenure and the days of units, but also a lovely tribute to the Brigadier, with Kate Stewart carrying on his legacy. Sadly, she fell from grace time and time again, as Moffat depicted her not as a scientist leading unit into a better age, but just someone who was stricken by the militaristic mindset of blowing everything up. With Moffat gone, Chris Chibnall needs to give her another tackle, as he wrote her right originally, and it would also allow Unit to return too, which frankly can't be a bad thing. 4. Ace. Ace is just awesome, plain and simple. Companions had a certain stereotype prior to Ace's arrival, but once Ace came into the picture, things radically altered. She was a street kid who was rough around the edges, carried baseball bats, and even made her own explosives, but she was also inquisitive and loyal, whilst having the ability to stand up for herself and challenge the Doctor when she felt he was keeping things from her. Now, of course, her reintroduction would beg the question of what happened to her during the Time War. Did she survive? It'd be nice to shed some light on the mystery of what became of Ace and see how she would react to the current events happening on the show today. 3. Leela. Sure, Leela wasn't the brightest of companions, but she was certainly loyal and held so many strengths, both physically and mentally. Unfortunately, her departure was extremely forced in that she fell in love with Andred out of the blue during the events of the Invasion of Time. Leela's had a hell of a run off-screen beset with much tragedy in the big Finnish audio dramas, but that's no substitute for an on-screen update on her character. Plus, it'd be nice to see how she could be incorporated into ongoing events, as the 13th Doctor explores the deceit of the past, which might perhaps change Leela's perspective on how she views the Time Lords as a whole. 2. Romana. In many ways, Romana was like having a female Doctor before a female Doctor was even a thing. She was very much just as brilliant, smart, witty, and heroic as the Doctor himself was. Her pairing with the 4th Doctor was one of the best ever, with the two of them always feeling on equal grounds. It also felt refreshing that the Doctor was showing the wonders of the universe to one of his own people, thus desensitizing her from the rudimentary and dual ways of their society. However, as of yet, we still don't know Romana's fate in the Time War. Perhaps Big Finish will shed some light on this come Gallifrey Time War Volume 4. Either way, Romana is another character who would benefit from returning, and would help elevate the ongoing narrative, tying into the Doctor's past while serving as a vehicle to explore the future of the show. 1. The 8th Doctor. Poor old Paul McGann certainly had a difficult experience on Doctor Who, given his backdoor pilot ultimately failed in landing his incarnation a full American series with Fox. Sure, you could argue that this was for the best. However, it meant that the 8th Doctor was left in the dark, with the TV movie being his only physical appearance. Since Russell T Davies chose to start the new series with a clean slate, it seemed like Paul McGann would never return on screen. Luckily, he was finally granted the opportunity to shine once more for the mini-episode The Night of the Doctor. Since then, fans have been pining for his return, given how seamlessly he slipped back into the role as if he'd never been away. His incredible success in the audio dramas have also demonstrated his character's capability as a fully developed and engaging presence in the Whoniverse. So why not bring him through for a cameo? I mean, hell, why not have him around for an entire series, where the plotline revolves around the dimensions of time folding in on themselves, and the 13th Doctor and the 8th Doctor's timelines converge, forcing them to work together to solve the catastrophe. I mean, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but either way, at the very least, he should definitely get an epic spotlight role in the 60th anniversary special.